Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back to Influencer Club. We are here today with Ken Spencer, and she is the queen of Crown Yourself, which is really quite a happy topic because Kim is all about talking about on her particular podcast about how we can express ourselves and promote ourselves using our podcasts, and also promote the things that we actually really love, right? So, yeah. This is Kim's second time on the show. We were just talking off camera about how we met almost 2 years ago, and it was at the beginning of the pandemic, and it looks like we're winding down towards what they call, the experts would call, endemic kind of situation. So which means the global emergency could be coming to an end soon. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you so much for having me back, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah. Now to prove that the podcasting is a business or a business promotion that you can do just about anywhere, you have recently moved from Australia to California. Is that right?
Yeah. I moved to Australia unexpectedly, got stuck there for the past 2 years in the pandemic, and then international flights opened up, and my husband and I, we had some personal family losses back in the States, and so we decided to come back, and then it was time back in January, and so now we're back here, and have Mike will travel.
There you go. So, again, as I was promoting your particular podcast and some of the things that you talk about, how important is it really to promote ourselves and to feel good about promoting ourselves?
Well, promoting ourselves, I like to joke with my clients where I say it's not bragging if it's true. So it's very easy, especially for high achievers, to get focused on our weaknesses. And I think our culture has very much raised us to focus on our weaknesses. Like for me, I was aimed at being a straight A student, and if I was getting a B in a class that I wasn't particularly my forte, like Algebra 2 or something, or a C, the one C that I got, that was the class that I then had to hyper focus on, was my weakness class, instead of the ones that I was already good at, like English and writing and drama, that were all my A classes. And so we're kind of conditioned from an early age to focus on our weaknesses, and promoting ourselves can be a weakness because we're so focused on our weaknesses, rather than looking at the strengths, looking at what is it that we're doing well, what is it that we're doing right, what is it that we're doing that we're so proud of, what is it that we can celebrate about ourselves and who we are, who we've become, what we've done, what we've created, and moving from there of really training our minds to embrace not only our own, successes, but other people's as well. And commonly, whenever I see any sort of jealousy in my industry, or in any industry really, typically I like to say, well, you're seeing somebody else's success, but you're forgetting to see your own. And a lot of times that's when jealousy comes up, and that comparison-itis, in essence, is where we're seeing somebody else having success in the way that we want to have success, but we're not recognizing our own incremental progress toward having that same success that we desire. It just in our own way. And recognizing that we are each on our own journeys, and that journey is worthy of being shared and being promoted, because your journey will help serve and support someone different than how my journey has. And that's why all of our stories need to be shared and promoted.
Excellent. I like that. It's you bring up something that I question a lot, though. How we see ourselves as a success. I know I know a bunch of people. They know like the Richard Bransons and the Elon Musks of the world, and should we model them as for our form of success, or should we pick something that actually is more surrounded by the things that our strengths and the things that we actually love ourselves, and not necessarily just the billionaires?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's aspirational to want to see somebody like Elon Musk, achieving at the level that he's achieving at. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he has, I don't know him personally, but I'm sure he has a set of habits and skill set and a perspective and a way of looking at things that could be beneficial for every entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. That being said, I do also believe that we also need to look at what is our own definition of success. For example, I had a friend come on my podcast, The Princess and the Bee, and she was sharing about how she's very satisfied having a successful 6-figure business with only a handful of clients that she can support, and that she can really do her best at sharing and supporting her clients, and then not wanting to work that hard for much else. And she was okay with that because she got to have time with her husband and with her kids and with her family. And so she was able to write what success was for her. And so often we're living by somebody else's definition of what success is. Like if you're an influencer, so often it's like, oh, I need the Ferrari, or I need, to be jet setting around the world in order to look like a success. But is that ultimately your definition, or what I like to call, and what the Indian culture calls your dharma, of what is that your dharma? Is that your purpose? Is that really your purpose to be successful in that way? It's like some people think, oh, that my way to be successful is I need to go to school, go to college, become a doctor, et cetera, and follow that path. Now, that's not for everybody. I know many people who wanted to become doctors and then turned around to create amazing influencer brands. And being a doctor is great, but it wasn't their calling. It wasn't their dharma. And so allowing yourself to be exploratory and get curious about what that purpose and what that definition of success is. For me, like, I feel very successful in the Hollywood industry that I was in my early 20s, because I was able to write a feature film that had a major movie star in it called Bro, starring Danny Trejo. And I was able to do that and get it, it got distributed. It got on Netflix. I felt fulfilled in achieving that level of success, and I didn't really feel called to go after more in that industry at that moment in where I was, because the other offerings of what I was getting, I was just like, I don't really want to write that, and I don't really want to do that, and I didn't really feel that, like I wanted more. And so allowing yourself to let go of the form in which you think success should be is as well. Like, I think some people are incredibly successful as being stay-at-home moms. Like, their success is their children, and they may post about it on Instagram or do fun reels, but that is their success, is really being an amazing mother. And to each their own. We each have a reason why we are put on this planet, and we can use other people like the Elon Musk of the world to look at their habits, their skill sets, their perspectives, their ways of thinking, and see, how can I adopt that and translate into being my own thing? Like, how can I make that my own thing? And there's only a few commonalities that I've seen consistently with the high achieving, what the world would call successful leaders that I have worked with. And that is, one, they take ownership for everything in their life. They take ownership for their mistakes, and they also own their successes as well. And two is that they're coachable. They're flexible. They're adaptable. They're looking at things from multiple perspectives. They're constantly seeking out new answers, looking at ways of growing. And three is that they surround themselves with smart people and don't expect to be the smartest person in the room. Those are the main three principles of what I've seen, what the world would deemed to be a successful person, and of whom I have coached. And being able to just model those principles, you can translate that into whether you're a stay-at-home mom and that's your definition of success,
right,
or whether having a family that's like connected and that is able to, actually have connection time, or whether your definition of success is being that jet setter who can travel around the world. Well, if that is you, then own that. Right. But you got to own what your dream is.
Right. For myself, I remember one of my coaches, he called me out on my on how do you put it, the imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He said you keep saying, oh, I shouldn't be here in this room, but you are here, which means you should be here. And it's like, the reason why you're here isn't because you are the one that has the big pile of money, but because you're important to us who do have the big pile of money because of your perspective. I was like, oh, which was kind of you're talking about my own when you talk about your own version of success. My version of success isn't necessarily the big pile of money, but it is being able to be in and offer perspective to those who do have the big piles of money, which is kind of like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And it's like, so
yeah, and that's the power of knowing what your definition of success is, and claiming that for what it is for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, with that, how important is staking that claim to like our own inner spirit?
Oh, that's I mean, the fulfillment factor is what I base my life on. Is how, like, because there's success and then there's that holistic fulfillment that really we're all chasing. And most people think it's success. Most people think it's having a certain level of achievement, but really it's what people think that feeling of success will bring them, which ultimately is the feeling of fulfillment. So how fulfilled are you doing what you perceive is making you or has made you successful? I know many successful people who have gotten to a level of success and they don't feel fulfilled, and thus they don't feel successful. And that's because they're having success based on somebody else's definition or somebody else's dharma of what they said success should be versus what really fulfills and lights up their soul and spirit.
Right. So chasing what really, as I'd like to put it, that really flips our lid is what true success is. Yeah.
Yeah, of being able to be aware. And now that what I'm not saying is, I'm not saying go off and, like, if you're not fully fulfilled in your job, don't go off and quit like tomorrow, just because sometimes we have responsibilities and families to provide for and whatnot. So not always do people have the luxury of doing that. But look at how could you approach your job, or how is your job, or whatever it is, whatever role you're in that is not fulfilling you, how is that preparing you for your purpose? How is that preparing you to have a skill set that you'll be able to take into doing whatever it is that lights your soul on fire? Like, for example, if you're in a management position and you don't like it, and you know that you really have a calling for entrepreneurship, well, at least in your management position, you're being equipped with a skill set to manage people, which you will need when you have your own business, because you'll have to manage your clients, manage your team, build your team. So it's equipping you with a skill set that at least can prepare you for doing that thing that you really want to do, and looking at it through the perspective of how is this preparing me for what I am supposed to do in this world, versus, oh my God, this sucks. Like, it is a game changer of a perspective shift.
Right.
When you can look at it through the lens of possibility and through everything being a preparation for what it is that you are meant here to be doing. Because like your mentor said, if you should have been there, then you would be there. And if you shouldn't be here, then you wouldn't be here. But you are here, so accepting where you are is the first place to start.
Right. So I know for me that imposter syndrome was a fear of being kicked out. With that, what is the first level of being accepted into the room? Is that accepting who you are yourself?
I mean, it depends on the room. Like sometimes you'll be accepted into the room because of your skill set, your perspective, the just energy that you bring to the table. For example, I had one client, she was doing multi-millions in business, and one of her business partners brought her into a meeting and says, I don't really know what she's good at, but I know that she's good, and she's here for a reason. She's doing something right. So I don't know what she does really well, but I know she's supposed to be at this table. And she didn't quite know how to take that. So when we were in our coaching session, we were breaking down what it was that she did really well. And what she did really well was build relationships. She was very, very skilled at being a very strong people person in the room. So she was able to really foster and build relationships with high, powerful people who she'd be sitting in a room with doing deals. So because she recognized that skill set, that is a skill set in and of itself. It was also one of her core values is relationships and family. So that also helps. But having a skill set, having a perspective, and knowing what your genius zone is. Your zone of genius is that area that feels easy, and that you sometimes our egos will have us think, oh, everybody thinks this way. Oh, everybody does it this way. Oh, everybody already knows this. And no, they don't. Like, I guarantee you they don't. They know what their genius zone is, and they're off thinking that everybody does things this way. And that's why a wise person knows to, like what I said, is that one of the markers of success is they know not to be the smartest person in the room, or else you're in the wrong room.
Right. Actually, I think that some president actually coined something around that, not necessarily wanting to be the smartest person, but knowing who the smartest people were and knowing they're with you, sort of thing.
Yeah. That was the strategy of Henry Ford. Henry Ford didn't know how to put a car together, but he hired people that did.
Right. Exactly. Right. Recognizing talent is a genius zone of itself. Yeah. Building relationships is a genius zone. Being able to see that 40,000 foot perspective and hold a higher vision, that's a skill set. Being a detail oriented person where you're able to really go into those infinitesimal details and zone in on on perfecting those little pieces, that's a genius zone skill set. So we all have different areas, and that's what's so beautiful about humanity, is that we are all so diverse in our perspectives and our beliefs and our skill sets, and especially in our genius zones or in our dharma and what we're supposed to be doing. Like, every time I see a doctor who is an amazing, I freaking love my kid's pediatrician. He's amazing. And he's studied functional medicine, alternative medicine, homeopathic medicine, allopathic medicine, all the different types of medicine. And I am amazed at his knowledge. I know some things about homeopathic, but nowhere near what he knows. And I'm so grateful to have him on my family's team to support my kids. But I also know that I'm not going to be the girl who's going to medical school. I can guarantee you that. And I'm so grateful for the people out there who are super skilled rocket scientists and bridge builders and engineers. I know that's not my thing. I know that, and I'm okay with that, because I know that my thing is in transforming people's stories. Yeah. Well, bringing us back to your specific thing. Because we're both sitting here, we're both rock star podcasters.
Well, thank you for including me in that. That's a pretty lofty title, so I appreciate that.
Hey, you're the queen, man. It's like, but you were talking about some of the things that you were good at in school, and some of the things that you talked about being really good in school was some of the things that I absolutely struggled with. I actually dreaded them, and it took me all the way until my adult life. You're talking about being one of the rocket science. I was in rocket science for a while. It's like,
that's awesome. You should talk to my 4-year-old. He wants to be a rocket scientist and an astronaut, and so we're like walking down the street doing math drills because he just loves learning addition and subtraction. And like, that was so not me. That was not me at all.
Right.
But I honor his process because that's his thing.
Yeah. I will give you a little insight to this, especially when it gets to rocket science, that math no longer becomes a function. Math becomes a language. And you are good at language.
I'm good at understanding people and translating stories. You can humans are pretty simple. Like we're diverse. And in all of human history, as a writer, like coming from a screenwriting background, there are only about 7 stories that actually do well on screen. Like if you try to veer from those 7 story paths, then generally the film is a flop, because humans understand humans, and we all have about only 7 of the similar stories, like wanting to fit in, wanting to be, not wanting to be judged, judging ourselves too harsh, conforming ourselves to fit in with the cool crowd. Like, there's not that many stories. Like, we all know those stories in every single language, in every single culture.
Right. Exactly. Right. How many, like Tom Cruise, right? How many times did he redo Jerry Maguire throughout his career, right? They're all the same story. And being the math geek, it's like, okay, at this point in time, it's time for this to happen to him right now, where he's going to hit this big failure, and he's going to have to have so many minutes to recover from that failure, and then he's going to be the big success again, right?
Yep. And we love that story.
Yeah, we love
like
that
if you
story.
If you break down any movie, any like successful blockbuster movie, there's always those 2 points. The one that's like the low point of the transformation, where they find their mentor or their Yoda. And then the second point of where they hit that, like, their all is lost moment right before the last 20 minutes of the film, where they totally like crush it and transform radically. Yeah.
I like how you use the Star Wars term, the Yoda, because instead of mentor, right? It's like, because every story has a Yoda in it.
Everyone meets their... For the most part. I mean, if you look at like a romance story like Titanic, like Jack was the Yoda, in essence, the mentor, the guide to Rose, of guiding her from that like very protected first class life into having a little bit more adventure and creativity and possibility. That's the guide. Yeah. And we all that's why whenever I'm working with a coach or an influencer, I always tell them, like, make sure that when you are sharing your story, you are not the lead character of your story. You are the Yoda. You are the mentor. You are the guide. Your client, your audience, they're the ones who you want to make feel like the main character. You get to be the one to guide them.
Right. Exactly. And you really do present yourself as a guide when we look at everything on your website. It's like, it says how I'm going to guide you to from this point to this point. You're going to take them from where they are now to where they can see that they have a limitless success, right?
Yeah, to where they want to be, and sometimes even beyond where they believe they can be. I mean, I remember I had one client, he joked with me. He said, "Kim, if after I work with you I can buy my plane, I'll know it was worth it." I said, "Great, challenge accepted." And within a year of working with me, he bought his plane.
Nice.
And it's like, but like, and it was beyond buying the thing. It really was the fact that he got to fulfill a childhood dream, and that meant the most for me. It was like, even with I had another client who her version of success was just being able to have her kids back in her life. Like, had gone through a divorce, and so one of her kids was very estranged from her ever since that experience, and through the work that we did, she was able to transfer. She was like, I don't know if it's possible. She's like, she hadn't talked to her oldest child in 3 years, and her child came back into her life in a different way, not necessarily in exactly the way that she had expected, but she came back into her life and they were able to start building and rebuilding their relationship. And so even in things like, I love when people make the impossible possible, when they're able to see that possibility of that what we declare and what we say is impossible. It's just a belief.
Yeah. So, okay. So you believe that dreams are possible to make dreams come true, right? What does it take to make our dreams come true?
Courage, for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to have the courage to go far beyond our comfort zone. And we have to have the courage to see and hold the faith when all evidence is showing that it's not going to happen. Because our reality will shift when we have that massive level of faith, where we don't have to see the results to know that they're happening, and to trust. And so courage, faith, and trusting that we are on that path and that it is happening, even if you can't see it. And what I love to give my clients as an exercise is, for whatever goal you have, look at how many ways it's already coming into fruition. So, for example, when I'm working with a client on a money goal, if they find a penny on the sidewalk, I'm like, look, see, your money goal is manifesting. They're like, hey, Kim, it's just a penny. And I'm like, it is 1 cent closer to what you wanted to receive in your business and in your life. So you could say it's just money, but by saying it's just money, then you're not going to recognize all of those other opportunities that there are to just money waiting literally for you to just pick it up. And so the same is true with a client who's looking to manifest a relationship. And when they're like, oh, Kim, there's no men out there. Okay, that's a perception. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I go to the grocery store, and if I see dudes all the time. Now I'm a married woman, but so this perception of there aren't men out there. I'm like, yes, there are. You just aren't looking. Those blinders will block you from seeing perception. So, for example, I had one client who's a real estate investor, and she came to work with me because she had about 2 weeks before this property, she was going to lose a contract, and she needed to find another investor to come in with her on the property. And her whole language was all, I don't have an investor. I don't have an investor. I don't have an investor. And I said, well, what if I lean into her belief system that we're all connected to some degree. I said, we all, our subconscious is tied to higher conscious or collective conscious, whatever you want to call that. And I said, so consciously, you're not aware of a real estate investor being able to come in with you on this property? She said, yes. And I said, but do you know subconsciously in the collective consciousness if there's someone out there? Do you really know? Could there be one out of the 7 billion people on this planet that could possibly find this deal to be as good as you say it is? And she's like, oh my God, it's a fantastic deal. She said, yes, I could definitely see one, if not 100 in the 7 billion people. I said, great. So it's not that you don't have an investor, it's that you're just not consciously aware of who that person is. So what if instead you started saying, I have an investor. I am willing to be shown who that person is. I have an investor. I'm so excited to meet this person. And so she shifted her language, and she shifted the way that she was speaking about her goals, and shifting the way that she was speaking about what it is she was working on manifesting, which was an investor. And within the 2 weeks, she got an investor. And it just came with her shifting her language powerfully and shifting her subconscious, because as soon as you put those blinders on of I don't have clients, or I have customers, or I'm not making enough money, then you're going to miss all of those other opportunities, because your subconscious mind is going to follow its instructions. So if you're telling your subconscious mind constantly, oh, I don't have this, I don't have this, it's going to be like, oh yeah, here's some more evidence of what you don't have. Here's some more evidence of what you don't have. Versus, I am so excited to have this and to become aware of what it feels like to have heaps and heaps of money, or to have an I'm so excited to meet that man of my dreams, and I cannot wait to meet him. Like, well, where is he? I'm so excited to meet him. So being able to put yourself into the thinking space of trusting and having that faith, even though it's not present in your conscious awareness, is so key to being able to achieve and manifest your dreams.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take a second here. I'm going to speak directly to our audience for 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you, those of you who are listening to this, right? Did you hear how excited she got about the little things? It isn't like the big things that we just need to celebrate. We need to celebrate the little things that are happening, because those little things build into like the really big, like blockbuster things. Okay. Sorry. Just in case somebody out there listening needed to hear that, in case they were like still stuck in that, that crazy mode of I don't have. It's like, no, she just said you do have. So,
yeah, and I appreciate that reflection and that clarity, because it is the little things, because it's our little incremental progresses that when we don't recognize them, we aren't going to recognize when the big ones come in. And allowing yourself to recognize that you are making progress, that you are on the path, that what I like to think of it like when you're working to achieve a dream, it's like having a baby. It's like, that baby is growing inside of you, or at least as a woman. And from a partner's or a perspective, like you see the bump growing and growing and growing.
Yeah. But
so many people, for lack of a better word, abort their dreams before they even give birth to them, because they're like, oh, I don't see it. It's not outside of me. It's not screaming in my face. And so they miss those opportunities to recognize that they're even pregnant with their possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally I like that. That's really good, because even us guys is like, yeah, I know we have to watch our wives grow and everything, but if you stay in tune with her, you can actually feel the energy happening around you.
And it's a powerful shift of energy, given that I decided to have another baby while over in Australia.
Yeah, well, Australia is a great place. I have lots of friends that live there.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and it was such a blessing for us to be over there for the past 2 years, and it really was a dream come true, because that was always my vision for the family. That was the vision that both my husband and I, when we first started dating, had for our family, was we wanted to live abroad, travel around the world, and raise our kids in different cultures, because I do think travel is the best form of education that you can ever have. When you learn how other cultures do life differently, and you're able to see different values in action, and then you're able to judge as far as and pick and choose what, from the diverse options that you have, what do you like, what do you not like, what would you like to keep, what would you like to reject. One of the things that I loved about the Australian culture is that they very much work to live, not live to work, like so many of us here in America do. And I had more time to relax. I had more time with my boys, so much so that we made another one. And then I also doubled our profits twice and doubled our business with me working less, because I was focused on the highest leverage activities rather than rather than just staying busy to always stay working, to just stay working.
You're right.
For what?
Yeah. Now, there's an important lesson that that we hear in North America. Well, maybe Canadians get a little better than Americans do, and I say this because I'm the American who moved to Canada. So, but leverage, we kind of toss away the importance of leverage. How important is leverage? And I don't mean like holding something over somebody. I mean leverage like, hey, can I join in and we both ride the same wave?
Yeah. So if you've ever watched a bicycle race or a car race, there is a thing called drafting. And basically the car behind the leading car or the bicycle behind the leading bicycle gets in right in alignment in the draft zone. So you're benefiting from the person in front of you, from their momentum, rather than doing all the work yourself and like doing all the pedaling. It creates so much more ease in your business and in your life when you look at how can I draft in a way and that in essence is leverage. So what are those highest priority activities in your life and in your business that produce the greatest amount of return? So if you look at your life or your business, there's probably only about 5% of the stuff that you're doing that actually produces the greatest amount of return. So for example, what I saw for me was live events back in 2019 were our main source of lead generation for my company. I have a saying that when I'm live, I thrive. Like I go to a live event, I just manifest amazing relationships, partnerships, client relationships, new customers. It was live events. Well, obviously for the past 2 years, that hasn't really been happening. And so in 2020, I shifted my strategy for how can I generate leads in the same way. And I don't like the word leads, like I prefer build relationships. But how can I build those relationships in the same way without without putting on these live events that I'm not allowed to put on, and be able to do it in a way that's virtual? And what I found was guest podcasting. And with guest podcasting, I'm able to, in essence, draft, because even though I have my own podcast, and I've had it for years and it's been very successful and very fun doing, going on other people's podcasts, I'm able to come on, share my expertise, share my story, share some value, hopefully serve your audience. And then it eases the amount of work that I have to do as a mother, because I have the amazing podcasters that I get to go on their podcasts like you, and the podcast, you do the work with producing and distributing it, and then I help co-promote and promote it to my community. And so that was a strategy of drafting or leverage that I found, because I was a mom that suddenly was living in Australia and then had no babysitter. And so that meant I was being more mom than I was able to spend in my business. So I said, what are the highest leverage activities? What are the activities that I could do that I know that I could make the most amount of impact and also have more time to be able to spend with my one child at the time, so that I could be able to balance out the loss of not having my mom with us to be able to support me with babysitting. And that was one of the highest leverage activities. And so that's why we doubled down. And within 50 interviews, we had generated over $70,000 of new business revenue. And I was like, I think I'm onto something. And so that's why I created my course, Communication Queens, on how to really leverage podcasts and your own podcasts, which was what I also then started to leverage for generating those relationships as well. Right. And the beautiful part is that when you can look at your life and in your business and what are those highest leverage activities. So for example, I look at that as the parent as well. I am not the parent who does well with the cooking and the housework and stuff. My husband is actually honestly better than that. Like, he loves cooking. That's his genius zone. Housework, not so much. But that's why we then delegated that out to a housekeeper. But being able to have him in his highest leverage activity where he feels like he's giving the most of himself, which is cooking. And me, I'm the activity person. Like, I will take my kid to the dance class and I will be the dance mom, like cheering them on. I will be in the basketball practice, passing the basketball and, doing the activities. Like, I'm that very physiological type of play mom. And so that's like my highest leverage activity, where I know that I'm spending the quality present time with my child, because so often we think we're spending time, whether it's in our business or in our personal lives, doing the things that are the highest leverage, but they're not. So much of those activities are what I call productive procrastination. Like what I used to do, like it wasn't always this way of understanding leverage. And so it was when I was a new mom with my first, I thought, oh, well, just kind of working in the same room with him, he'd be on his iPad, I'd be on my computer. We'd kind of be there, but we wouldn't really be engaging with each other. And I was like, I don't know if this is the highest leverage activity, because I'm kind of like scattered and pulled with my attention, because I'm not 100% focused on my work, because I'm getting distracted by the sounds coming from his iPad. And so I had to recognize, oh, this is really not, it's not the best for him. It's not the best for me. So how can I make this better? What if I just switched it to where I give him to my husband for that hour for my husband to play with him and entertain him, and then we switch and I'm able to be fully present with him instead of just and doing an activity of some sort, rather than just kind of passively being in the same room together. So many families are in that space and got into that space, unfortunately, with COVID, of just kind of, they're all together, but that doesn't mean you're actually like connecting and engaged with each other. And with a podcast, same is true with my business, is like, I know that if I go on a podcast, I'm going to connect, I'm going to engage, I'm going to build some amazing relationships with podcasters like you, Michael, who's having me on again. Like that's a testament to podcasting. And the fact that I get to come on here again and serve your audience again. And that is a high leverage activity, because I know that the business is all about relationships, and the relationship that you're building with the podcaster, with their audience, with your potential customers. That really can help shape the business for curating and doing those high leverage activities.
Yeah. Okay, so you brought about another key word here, that relationship, and for those of you that are following along, Kim has done a couple words here that are really important, with our being aware of our own strengths and our own successes and relationships. We can't be a success if we don't relate to others around us, right?
Yeah. And that's why so many people get very alone, especially as entrepreneurs. They can feel very lonely. Yeah.
So if you can have the most brilliant invention as an entrepreneur, the most brilliant coaching system, but if you don't have other people to share it with, you don't really have much, right?
No, you don't have a business either, because you need customers, i.e. relationships, to be people paying you to come in. So you can have a brilliant coaching system and have certifications and qualifications up the wazoo, but unless you have built at least one relationship with the paying customer, you don't even have a business. You got a fancy, expensive hobby, and I would know, because that was how my business was for the first year and a half.
Yeah.
When I first started Crown Yourself, I was so petrified after being bought out of my first e-commerce company. I had a year and a half of spinning my wheels, doing all the things, logos, building processes, getting certifications, getting a nice website design, putting blogs up, but I was not focused on building quality relationships, not quantity, but quality relationships. And it was because of that, I made $0 for a year and a half in my business. And I had to switch to putting myself out there in getting into relationships, of just putting myself out there as a coach, putting myself out there with my content, and then building a relationship and building a community around me.
Right. So building and that's the whole thing is as entrepreneurs, I like to say sometimes we're bricklayers.
We are. We are. And the first bricks of your castle wall, your fortifications, are your values. And people will come into your kingdom or your queendom of your business based on what it is that you value. If you're not clear and upfront with what you value in your life, in your business, and what matters to you, then people will not be sure whether they're, going to be a good fit for your kingdom or whether they won't be. Like, for example, I always use Disneyland as the magical equation, which was the first place we went to when we got back to California with 2 children. Like, when asked, like, what are you going to do first when you get back to California? I was like, go to Disneyland. That's what you do with a 4-year-old. And Disneyland, one of their values is it's the magical kingdom. So it's having magic. Like, that is a value. And people want to experience that. So they go to Disneyland to have that magical, childlike, transformative experience. And then they find out that they're standing in line for 20 minutes. So, but that value of magic is there, and it gets people in the door. The same is true with whatever it is that your business value and what your business stands for. Those values are the main bricks that build those castle walls, so that you know who are the people who are going to come into your kingdom, and they will love being there. And you also will know who are going to be those interlopers who probably shouldn't be in your kingdom, who don't value the same things. Right. So those are very powerful castle walls to build around your business, so you understand who are the best people for you. Because otherwise, if you're for everyone, you're for no one.
Right. Yeah.
And I do want to say, Michael,
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that was a very important thing to say. If you're not if you're for everyone, you're for no one. That's a very important thing to say. Go ahead.
Oh, I have a hard out in 2 minutes.
Yes, I was going
to say. I have to relieve my husband.
yeah. I was going to say because I know time is starting to run out, because I've been keeping an eye on. I got my clock right here. What are the best ways for people to get a hold of you?
If you love this conversation, I would love to continue it with you one-on-one. So just head on over to crownyourself.com and hit the button that says work with me, and I'd love to have a conversation.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for joining us today, and I don't want to keep you away from what is important to you. So, yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Michael. I so appreciate it.
All
yes. Right. Respect and my husband is definitely a strong value of mine, of each of us respecting each other's time, and being able to support each other with it's basically the baby handoff that we got to do.
Yeah. No. I totally get that part. Family is a very important value. So, thanks for joining us again, and we'll talk
Thank you so much for having
to you
me.
later. All right. Bye.
So I wish upon that shooting star.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.